So thanks for joining us today for the Just a Click Away webinar. And my name is Janet Freeman. I'm a community outreach librarian at Courthouse Libraries, BC, where I coordinate a program called Law Matters, assisting public libraries in providing legal information. I also assist with editorial work and training on ClickLaw, the public legal information portal featured in our first webinar 2 weeks ago. And today's webinar is the second of 3 webinars leading up to the Just a Click Away National Conference on February 23rd and 24th in Vancouver. The pre-conference webinars feature approaches being used in various jurisdictions to provide access online to public legal education and information. So we do have an agenda. There it is. And so we've just spent some time on housekeeping, and we'll be doing introductions. We'll talk about ClickAway initiative. We'll have our 3 presenters, 10 minutes each. We'll have a question and answer session and a wrap-up. So just briefly. For the housekeeping, your phones are on mute automatically so that everyone's not distracted by background noise. If you have questions, we encourage you to use the Q&A feature on the right-hand side of the screen. If you'd prefer to ask your question using a phone, please raise your hand by clicking on the Raise Hand button. So just a bit of context to get things started about the ClickAway initiative. It's aimed at how we enhance access to justice through effective use of technology for public legal education and information. And the Just a Click Away is funded by the Law Foundation of Ontario's Access to Justice Fund, and is coordinated by Courthouse Libraries, BC. And we want to recognize the Just a Click Away Advisory Committee, drawn from groups across the country. And several of them are here participating in the webinar today. So Deborah, I'm just going to do first names to acknowledge. Deborah, Drew, Fiona, Hubert, Julie, Mary, Patricia, and Penny, one of our presenters today. So the webinar series is the second stage of Just a Click Away. And in the first stage, at conferences organized by Eduquer-Lois last fall, we looked at how social media can be used for legal information. There's a report on the Just a Click Away website at justaclickaway.ca. And in this webinar series, we are looking at approaches being used in various jurisdictions to provide access online to public legal education information. And the webinars are being recorded and will be available for anyone to watch afterwards. So the webinars lead up to a national conference in Vancouver, February 23rd, 24th, 2011. The conference will feature opportunities for public legal education and information providers to develop skills, share experiences, and identify opportunities for collaboration, and to explore new ideas and continue to be leaders in using technology to deliver PLEI. I'd like to introduce our 3 panelists who will be telling the stories of 3 portal websites. So we've got some real pioneers in online public legal education information. So Kirsten Werman is the librarian at LawNet, at the Legal Resource Center. And Penny Goldsmith is the executive coordinator of PovNet. And Liz Keith is the program manager of Pro Bono Net. So we're really thrilled to have all 3 presenters here today. And as we move into the presentations, I'll remind everyone, I think I've done this already, you've received a handout by email, the 3-page snapshot. All right, so we'll just get started then with Kirsten from LawNet. Kirsten, we'll just transfer the mic over here to Kirsten. And the control. Okay, Kristen, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you. I'm just trying to get my, there we go. Hey, hello everyone. My name is Kirsten Werman, and I'm joined here today in my Edmonton office on this beautiful blue sky morning by fellow librarian Peggy Sue Iwanishin, who was integral to this portal upgrade project. Since I only have 12 minutes, I won't, or I'll try not to repeat what's in the handout that was distributed to all of you, nor will I duplicate what was presented by Drew and Fiona 2 weeks ago in terms of what is a portal and definitions, etc. I think they set the stage very well. So this is going to be all LawNet. But first, to help accentuate the dramatic evolution of ACJNet to LawNet, I want to show you these screenshots of ACJNet from years gone by. The interface has obviously evolved since 1996, and there was also an evolving purpose to the portal with the introduction of ACJNet Alberta in 2001. ACJNet was created and maintained to be a well-organized point of access or starting point for reliable and trustworthy Internet resources about the law. We know that ACJNet was well used and valued by intermediaries, by librarians, by teachers and their students, and by the general public. But by 2010, the look and feel was getting pretty dated, and in terms of the navigation and taxonomy, I think we were falling a bit behind some of the new kids on the PLEI block, so to speak. So that was then, and this is now. On December 21st, 2010, and with the financial support of the Alberta Law Foundation and Justice Canada, we were able to launch the 3 new LawNet portals. LawNet Alberta is really the centerpiece, and because of the funding from Alberta Law Foundation, we were able to spend all of that intellectual time needed to completely upgrade the navigation, the information architecture, and the interface. So I think we've remained true to the initial mandate of ACJNet, and our new portal remains this well-organized starting point for online legal information. Now, along with our new look and feel, we also, with the help and advice from our users and from our Provincial Advisory Committee, changed the name from ACJNet to LawNet. And I think the new name and the tagline conveys, we hope, more explicitly the purpose of the site. While a lot of our focus was on LawNet Alberta, LawNet Canada and LawNet Francais still benefited greatly from the work done on the Alberta portal. And with some funding from Justice Canada, we were able to make substantial improvements, as you can see here. So the structure of LawNet Alberta has been completely modified from that of its ancestor, ACJNet Alberta. So let's look at the navigation in a little bit more detail. The Know the Laws section includes resources that teach about how the law is made and organized, as well as resources for accessing legislative materials and case law. The Learn About Your Legal Problems section has resources that have been selected as a starting point to help you understand various legal topics, including things like family and relationships, money, debt, and fraud, planning for the future, or working and volunteering, to name but just a few of the legal topics that we cover here. The Where to Find Help section connects the user to organizations that provide services for Albertans, so things like complaint and advocacy services, courthouse services, or finding a lawyer. The Resources For section was created with links for the different communities of users or publics that use LawNet. So different publics like immigrants and refugees, people with disabilities, rural Albertans, etc. And finally, because of the increase in self-represented litigants, we created the Preparing for Court section for users to learn more about court procedures and what to expect if you find yourself in court. Now, due to funding parameters, the site sections on the Canada and the Francais sides haven't been redone to the extent of LawNet Alberta. However, each site section was completely evaluated and revised. So in the Canadian law section, you'll find access to sources about Canadian primary legal materials, such as statutes, cases, and bylaws. And I should mention here as well that every site section, or almost every site section, is organized by jurisdiction, so you can quickly see the resources that most apply to your province or territory. The Law-Related Services section provides you with options to the type of help you might need. So you'll find here services like alternative dispute resolution, legal clinics, and police services. In the Resource Center, you'll find legal directories here, online magazines and newspapers, and videos and multimedia. We've kept our public legal education section, and this provides links to information about the practice of PLEI in Canada. So this includes PLEI organizations, public legal education research, and Speakers Bureau, for instance. And we have a research section now, which provides links to information about researching the law in Canada. So here you'll find legal links to legal collections and libraries, to legal definitions, and to public consultations. And again, I just want to reiterate that the list of links that you'd find in every site section are often organized by jurisdiction. So this is just what LawNet Français looks like. So you can see that it's almost an exact duplicate of LawNet Canada in terms of the navigation and information architecture. So this is just an example of the Centre de Ressources section, which this is how it looks once it's expanded. And you'll see all the subsections listed in the left-hand menu bar. So in terms of taxonomy, we were really grateful for the consultations that we had with ClickLaw, and as well we did other research into other legal information sites like Advice Now out of the UK and womenslaw.org in the US. Not to mention we revisited our own extensive taxonomy that had been created over the many years of ACJNet. So through all this, we updated, improved, and I feel now we utilize a taxonomy that really reflects the PLEI users in Alberta and in Canada. So if a user is not sure about the appropriate term or legal topic to search, this clustered arrangement might help. That's up on your screen right now. Or you can choose to alphabetize the complete list of legal topics. So if we were to look under the heading Housing and click on the keyword affordable housing, you would get this result list. And I just wanted to highlight a few things. So first of all, you see that there are 15 records that are found within the search for affordable housing. There's a definition about what affordable housing is. As well, we've included some see also keywords that might be more appropriate considering the user's situation, and those are all linkable. You can then choose to view the results either alphabetically or by most viewed or by recently added. And on LawNet Canada, you have the added ability to view the results by jurisdiction. And then we have the list of the results. And so all of these results have a link to the organization or resource. There's a brief abstract. And then we also list the other keywords used to tag this record. So it's just another layer of navigation for the user. On the LawNet Canada Français portals, the search is a bit different, again, due to funding and time constraints. So we kept the old ACJNet drop-down menu search with the ability to search by language and jurisdiction. All the keywords, however, were completely reviewed, evaluated, and revised. So let's choose the keyword elder abuse from the drop-down menu, and English as the language, and Nova Scotia as the jurisdiction. So the results are displayed similarly to what we saw in the previous search on LawNet Alberta, but I just wanted to point out that the results list the Nova Scotia resources first, followed by Canada federal results, since those records would also pertain very much to a Nova Scotia user who is looking for information about elder abuse. So speaking now about the potential of LawNet, I thought I'd address a point that was raised at the last webinar about smaller jurisdictions using a template from a portal like LawNet or ClickLaw or ClioNet. I've shown you that we have many records from every jurisdiction in Canada in our database already, and including many records from Manitoba. So Vincent, our tech guy, quickly pulled together a template of how something like LawNet Manitoba could look. So for this example, we're using the same template as LawNet Canada, but the types of site sections and navigation could instead be similar to that of LawNet Alberta, which was much more comprehensive, or it could be something entirely different based on the jurisdiction's need. The look and feel, though, would remain the same. So a Manitoba user could search for records which, again, already exist in our database and can be found currently on LawNet Canada. And then they'd get results like this. So this is a search for wills and estates. So you see the results with the Manitoba resources first, followed by the Canada federal resources. Our content management system, and a lot of detail is in the handout, but I just wanted to touch on how the content management system enables us to give other organizations the ability to add resources with permissions to access just one portion of the portal, like LawNet Manitoba, for instance, or to the entire portal system. So here's what creating a record looks like. So you have the ability to flag to the appropriate site section or multiple site sections by clicking on the Site Section tab at the top. And then we have 4 keyword selector boxes, and these are brand new for us. We used to write the keywords down in a text box, and that caused all sorts of problems with misspellings and people using keywords that actually aren't in our approved dictionary. Further down the page, you can write the abstract for your organization's record, as well as flag by jurisdiction or language. The final thing I wanted to mention today is the work that we've done on the guidelines and promising practices of LawNet. We've created a documentation wiki that includes, as you can see here on the screen, we've included a style guide with standard spellings and phrases, conventions, etc. We have guidelines for creating abstracts. We have technical guides. And we found that this wiki really allows the LawNet team to add the lessons that we've learned throughout the process of running and maintaining this portal. And the wiki also allows us to work collaboratively as a team, especially on the informational content that we all wrote together and then was added to all of the site sections. This is our section of keywords in our wiki, and this includes every single keyword that we use on LawNet. And each keyword, if you can look at this example here of our keyword natural resources, it includes a definition. Now, this is not necessarily a legal definition, but it's a definition in plain language. It includes the sources from which that definition came, the see alsos that are used for this keyword, and as well as suggestions for site sections that records with this keyword might fit. We've also included scope notes for the team since we have so many people working in the database, and the scope notes allow for consistency as they provide direction for when to use or not use a particular keyword or particular site section. So over the course of this project, we've really valued the knowledge and the research shared with us from organizations like ClickLaw, and we really see this documentation wiki as something that we can now share as well with the PLEI community. So that's it. We'll be happy to answer any questions after Penny and Liz finish up their presentations. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Kirsten. That was great. And now we'll move on to Penny Goldsmith from PovNet. Penny?
Hi. Thanks very much. It's nice to be here. I wanted to talk about PovNet and portals because in a way I think we have a little bit of a different sort of definition of how we started. Because we are a portal that is specifically about an issue. PovNet started in 1997. It started with a number of community organizations from around the province of British Columbia. We had a meeting up at UBC. There wasn't a computer in sight. We talked about whether we could use this new internet thing to actually be able to communicate with each other and to be able to find a cheap way to talk around the province. We've made lists of what we wanted to talk about. I still have the flip charts, and they still very much are about what we do. Advocates who are anti-poverty advocates aren't necessarily up on the new technology. When we started PovNet, I spent the first couple of years just traveling around the province showing people how to turn on computers. They were nervous about it. They were scared of it. They said that they didn't have enough time to deal with the computer. They didn't have enough time to deal with the internet. Mostly it was because they were scared of it. So we played. We figured out how to use it. The first website that PovNet had was one that I set up myself. I used to be a typesetter, and it was hand-coded, and it was very, very simple. Didn't look anything like our website today. But it was very much, right from the very beginning, used by the advocates and community workers and the public who were in the field. The first thing that went up on the PovNet website was information about an international conference in Geneva about poverty. There were a lot of advocates from Canada who went to that conference, and we were putting stuff up daily, press releases and what was going on in Geneva. I think it started a whole sort of structure of how PovNet could work, and that's what we've been doing ever since. Obviously, the website has changed. I looked up some definitions of portal myself, actually, to prepare for this event, and wanted to sort of add a couple of descriptions to the ones that ClickLaw put up. One of the definitions of portal was an ambient dream pop band from the UK. Another one, which I actually like the best, portal is a magic trick performed by the illusionist David Copperfield, in which he takes a member of the audience and transports both of them to Hawaii before appearing on stage. I'm not sure how it fits into PovNet exactly, but I rather like the idea of a portal being a resource to take you sort of out of the world that you're in day to day. Unfortunately, it doesn't take PovNet advocates very far out of what they do. PovNet has been, the website itself is a clearinghouse for current legal information and other organizations. We have a Find an Advocate map on the PovNet website, and on that map people can find other organizations, other advocacy groups, both in British Columbia where we're based, but also in other parts of the country. The idea of PovNet being outside of the British Columbia province is something with the internet that you kind of are doing anyway. You're traveling sort of around the country. Our website, Find an Advocate map, does take you to other parts of the country. And also the information that we have, too. Advocates are talking to each other. The legislation we're dealing with anti-poverty, EI, unemployment insurance, CPP is national. So that information is also countrywide. Our board of directors at PovNet is representative of organizations who do anti-poverty work. And this is our team of people who work with PovNet. We only have one full-time staff person, but we have people who work with our facilitators with our online courses and technical stuff online as well. This is the map that I was talking about, the Find an Advocate map, that people find, because we get calls from people who want help in other parts of the country as well, and so do advocates. We have a calendar and a job board and community listings, and people can send us emails about things they want up on the site. And we're also, like everyone else, using the social media, Facebook and Twitter and RSS feeds. I think that the way that PovNet functions, though, that makes it work is that it has always been a home base for people who are doing anti-poverty work or people who are actually looking for information around poverty issues specifically. And that's where it starts. And so people using other websites and all the other websites that we're talking about who are involved with Just a Click Away, for sure. If they're focusing on poverty issues, this is where they start. We also have other things with PovNet, which are website based, and one of them is our online program PovNetU. It's for advocates and for community workers, and it's something that again, we try and make the information easy and the courses easy. These are the courses that we offer at the moment. We've got an unemployment insurance course actually running right now, where we've got advocates from all over the country, including Ontario, taking the course. Our facilitators are people who are advocates themselves, and they work with learners to show them how to manage the course, and also to how to get the information and talk to each other as well. We use a program called Moodle, which is very accessible and friendly. And as you can see by the design of the website and the design of the online courses as well, we're very much trying to always have advocates find the website, find the information useful and friendly. We're always looking for ways to make people not scared of the technology, because what PovNet's job is very much to make the technology invisible. The idea is that the people who are doing the work need the information, they need the connections with each other. They don't care what programs we use at all. They care about being able to communicate with each other. And we get this feedback all the time that people are very pleased with the courses. We also have mailing lists where advocates talk to each other from around the province about issues around poverty. I want to just end up with what we're up to with a quote from somebody who used to be a longtime advocate and a PovNet board member. She died a few years ago. And what she said about PovNet is, and I think it's really relevant in terms of how we design websites, it just seems it was so long ago that most advocates didn't have computers, never mind internet access, and would spend hours on the telephone to get information needed to help people. Sometimes it would take days to get the necessary information. Although there were anti-poverty communities back then and provincial organizations such as End Legislative Poverty, dialogue and information sharing among individual advocates and activists was cumbersome. PovNet facilitated those connections, enriching what some would call a virtual community. PovNet has become more than a virtual community, in my view. It is a flesh and bones with a real heart. It is organic, and if the internet failed tomorrow, connections that have been made provincially and nationwide would endure. And that was said by Elaine Keogh. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thanks, Penny. A wonderful presentation on PovNet. And just before I go on to Liz, I just want to remind you about the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. You'll see they'll start to appear at the bottom, so it's great to kind of get everybody thinking, and we'll be answering the questions at the end of Liz's presentation. So please feel free to ask questions at the bottom of the Q&A there. Okay, Liz, over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Janet and Drew and Brenda. It's great to be here, and we're delighted to be participating in this series. I'm Liz Keith, and I'm the LawHelp Program Manager at Pro Bono Net, and I'm just going to start with a little bit of context about what LawHelp is, and then step through some of the key features on LawHelp, and then talk a little bit at the end about some of the lessons that we've learned at Pro Bono Net about supporting portal initiatives in the U.S. By way of a little bit of background, Pro Bono Net is a national nonprofit based in New York City with satellite offices in San Francisco, which is where I am today. And our mission is threefold. We work to support the innovative use of technology within the nonprofit legal sector in the U.S. We also have programs to support increased participation by pro bono volunteers. And then we also work to facilitate collaborations among nonprofit legal programs and advocates working on similar issues or in the same geographic region. And one of the major programs that we support is the LawHelp portal. And the LawHelp is both a website platform as well as a program. And the first LawHelp portal site was piloted in New York City in 2000, which seems like an eon ago in the web world, but it was great to hear that ACJNet predates us by several years. And since then, the platform has matured a great deal and has been adopted in 28 states in the U.S., ranging in size from California with 35 million people to Guam, which has just under 150,000 residents. And across the 28 states we're working, we're reaching about 70% of the U.S. poverty population. And I wanted to note that LawHelp has been supported both nationally and at the state level by the Legal Services Corporation's Technology Initiative Grant Program. LSC, as many of you may know, is the agency that allocates federal funding to nonprofit legal aid providers in the U.S., and the TIG program was created by an act of Congress in 2000 to support the innovative uses of technology to deliver legal services. Through this 28-state network of LawHelp sites, we are striving to improve what we refer to as the spine of the legal services delivery system in the U.S. And that spine really has two components. One is to use LawHelp to improve access to legal services for people that never reach the doors of a legal aid program, and to improve the quality of service. For example, the effectiveness of advocates, the overall efficiency of the delivery system, and the capacity of the pro bono sector. In addition, through LawHelp, we are trying to support several specific goals in each state. One is really around this portal concept, so to provide one-stop access to trusted, attorney-reviewed legal information for millions of low and moderate income people. We also endeavor to provide one technology platform that can support multiple programs in each state, and also to support statewide collaborations by the major access to justice entities. So having various groups come together around these portals and look at opportunities to collaborate and extend the reach of their individual resources. We also hope that LawHelp will provide a vehicle through which those programs can aggregate and share their public legal information statewide. We also look at LawHelp as a framework through which future promising practices or technology innovations can be rolled out both statewide and then nationally across the 28-state network. And one of the things that we see and also try to support is this idea that programs coming together around technology-enabled collaboration often leads to other kinds of collaboration that have nothing to do with technology, but are really about developing a more seamless help system for users through a variety of online and offline channels. So Pro Bono Net does not actually develop the content for the 28 LawHelp sites. We partner with host programs in each state that staff the LawHelp project and coordinate the involvement of other programs and content contributors. And this is sort of an illustration of the broad vision, which is in varying degrees of maturity in each state. But the idea is that each project is guided by an advisory committee and includes participation by a broad cross-section of the access to justice community, including direct services programs, libraries, courts, and others. And the beneficiaries, in turn, are many of those same groups, as well as the public and clients that they serve. In terms of the what of a LawHelp portal, I'll step through a few of the key features. The LawHelp portal in each state features an icon menu that allows users to find relevant information. Resources are organized by topic and geographic area, and different states have different flexibility to order and structure their content in the way or the hierarchy that makes the most sense given their community's needs. Once the user selects the topic related to their legal need, they can further refine their search by selecting on a subtopic or use the search engine at the right to deep search into the text of documents or subpages on the site. Within each LawHelp state portal are what we call channels, and these are really groupings of related resources that have been developed by the nonprofit legal aid community and range from basic kind of know your rights legal resources to court information to general social service resources and cut across a variety of mediums including FAQs, booklets, and audio and visual content. Within any given legal issue, users can search by their geographic area to see a list of nonprofit legal aid programs in their region that provide assistance with that issue. So in the example that we're seeing here, a user is searching for assistance in Minneapolis dealing to find programs that provide assistance on eviction issues. So they can enter that criteria into a search and return a list of programs that provide assistance at that intersection of geography and legal topic, the type of assistance offered, whether that's a hotline, a clinic, legal representation, and so forth, how to access that assistance, and detailed eligibility criteria. And this information really has two audiences, people in need of legal help as well as the advocates that serve them. So, for example, in LawHelp California, that portal which has about 500 organizations listed, is really used as the primary referral database for staff at legal services programs and community organizations who need to refer an individual to another source of assistance. Another type of content that many LawHelp state portals feature are interactive document assembly templates and diagnostic tools. And as many of you may know, document assembly refers to the process of having a user answer questions and then using those answers to complete a legal form or produce a personalized self-help packet. So it uses this sort of intelligent interviewing technique, and users have the option of saving their answers online and reusing them to complete related forms or documents. And many of these resources have been developed using a sister program that we support at Pro Bono Net called LawHelp Interactive. And my colleague Claudia Johnson, who manages that program, will be at the conference in Vancouver if anybody is interested in learning more about how we're approaching and supporting this in the U.S. A couple of other features to highlight here. Pro Bono Net and the LawHelp network as a whole are increasingly working to make these portals, make sure these portals are meeting the needs of the growing multilingual user base in the U.S. So LawHelp's design enables local administrators to create a subsidiary site entirely in another language, and 8 states have used this to create fully translated mirror sites in Spanish. And then a number of other states have used additional functionality to make non-English resources available through language-specific portal pages. And we often see in the community that programs will share or piggyback off of each other's translation work where they can, because the navigation elements are shared. Some of the features that are a little bit behind the scenes that I thought may be of interest for this community is, I think, similar to many of the other portals that have been spotlighted here, the content administration tools are developed for non-technical users and have that tiered administrative access that Penny described. We also have developed resource and organizational tickler systems, automated systems to help prompt content contributors to update their information. And all of the content that goes into the system is tagged using a standard comprehensive taxonomy of topics that's been developed by the legal aid community nationally. So this makes it possible to share documents across websites or integrate content more easily with case management systems or other systems that use that same taxonomy. And I'll just close here with a few of the observations and lessons that we've learned in our 10 years or so of supporting these projects, these kinds of portal projects across the U.S. We found that having a recognized host organization and appropriate staffing levels is really key in providing the glue to these kinds of collaborations. Also, a statewide advisory or stakeholder body is really crucial, in particular in the planning stages, to engender buy-in, avoid duplication, and help make sure the portal is well attuned to the community's needs. We've also been very fortunate to have the leadership and support of the Legal Services Corporation and that funding pool to support the startup of these projects, as well as state access to justice funders who have also played a leadership role and supported the growth of the portals. Increasingly, we are working to emphasize the quality of content over the quantity, and something that we've learned a lot about since 2000. One area that I think we found can be particularly challenging, or at least labor-intensive to maintain, is that very detailed referral information. That said, overall, I think there's a real value in the kind of national networking and support that happens within the community, both on technical and strategic issues. And I think Penny alluded to this concept as well, but our experience has been that the technology itself should be invisible and secondary to the larger collaborations and access to justice work that's being undertaken as the community, by the community as a whole. So I'll stop there, and thanks so much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thanks very much, Liz. Very impressive site. I think people at the conference are going to be very keen to talk to your representative there. We do have a few questions that have come in the Q&A feature at the bottom left of your screen, and I encourage you to send in more questions, but the first one is from Hubert at Educalois, and he asks for PovNet, what technology do you use for your mailing list at PovNet? So I'll ask Penny to talk about that.
Sure. What we use for the email list is a program called SAMPA, short for Sympathique, and it's one of the sort of basic programs where advocates can talk to each other from around the province. We have, for example, we have a welfare list in BC with over 370 community advocates on it. In order to get onto the email list, they have to actually get in touch with the PovNet office, sign a user agreement, tell us who they are, tell us that they're involved, what community group they're involved with, that kind of thing.
Great. Thanks, Penny. Another question from Hubert to Liz at LawHelp. Is it possible to have all resources translated? And how do you deal with updating these mirror sites?
That's a great question. Different states have taken different approaches to translating their content. It is possible to have all of the resources translated, but it depends on the capacity of our partner program in that state to do that. In some cases, they've used paid translators, and they've had a budget for that. In others, they've used law student volunteers or other volunteers and then had those reviewed by a bilingual staff attorney. Increasingly, in the legal services community in the U.S., there is an interest in looking at the role that machine translation tools can play somewhere along that pipeline, but I think it's still a bit of an open question here what sort of the value and effectiveness of tools like Google Translate are for creating these kinds of mirror sites. Great, thanks,
Liz. We also have another question from Sarah D. for Liz again. In your handout, you talk about an accessibility review of your website by 2 accessibility experts. Can you expand on this, and who did the review and what features of the site did they examine?
Sure, that's a great question. When LawHelp was, the sort of current generation of LawHelp was developed, we had 2 accessibility experts, Jim Thatcher and John Slayton, review the site, and they were both involved in the development of the original IBM screen reader technology and are accessibility researchers at the University of Texas in Austin. And I was not with Pro Bono Net at the time that this testing was done, but my understanding is that they actually used multiple, they tested the site using multiple assisted technologies, including different types of screen readers, and ran through different search scenarios and kind of use case scenarios, and then used some automated accessibility testing tools that look at the underlying kind of code and architecture of the site and flag potential accessibility issues. And right now we continue to kind of do this work looking at the WC3 consortium guidelines as our benchmark for accessibility.
Thank you, Liz. We did have a question come in on the chat feature from Deborah Duncan, and this is a question to LawNet. Do contributors include a link to the portals on their site too? Or anything like widgets, I guess?
Well, we don't have a widget per se, not yet. But definitely we strongly encourage people to include links to LawNet. Of course, we're brand new right now, so what we're doing right now is just getting the word out that ACJNet has changed into LawNet and encouraging people to update their links on our website. Certainly lots of libraries include us in their links on their websites. We don't have contributors right now. We don't have contributing organizations. We have that capability. We do all of the input into the database ourselves in-house. So we just let people know that we've included them, and we strongly encourage that they link to us.
Great. Thanks, Kirsten. I also have a note here from Penny that she'd like to ask a question.
Yeah, Liz, I was interested in what you had to say about the importance of staffing when it comes to websites, because certainly it's one of the things that we bump into a lot is to try and explain to funders in particular that these websites don't just happen off the corner of people's desks. I'm just wondering what kind of things that you do to help with that.
Sure. So I think part of what we try to do in terms of supporting the staffing is to really look at the sort of big picture and context in which the portal sites operate, and that they are they're content management functions, there are outreach functions, partnership development, resource development functions, that technology functions that tie in with these projects. And so part of what we try to do is really educate both funders and leadership in the states that we work in about the need for really robust staffing to support all of those roles and resources that underlie the site. And then we also work with our partners to do evaluation and develop kind of reports or strategies that really talk about the impact that these projects are having and the benefits they have to the benefits that accrue to the legal services community as a whole, given those investments in staffing. So I know that's kind of a vague answer, but I'd be happy to share any kind of materials or backup that we have that might speak to that in more detail.
Great, thanks, Liz. And we now have a question from Sarah D. for Penny. In your handout, you talk about using visioning sessions to get feedback on your website. Does this refer to getting people to test features on your site?
Yeah, it's a number of things, actually. One of the things that we do is our board of directors has a planning day every couple of years, and at that planning day we talk about how the website is, what is needed on it, what we would like to see, what the board would like to see, expanding, not forgetting that the board represents various community organizations around the province. So that's one part of the visioning. The other part is that we have field tested our website by sitting down with people and seeing how they use it. So we'll have questions, and we will just see how we'll sit down in a computer lab, usually the local library, and see how people find things via the website.
Thanks, Penny. The floor is kind of open right now for questions, and I'm just wondering if any of the other panelists have questions of their fellow panelists. We also have Peggy Sue from LawNet as well. So if any of you have questions, we can talk to each other.
This is Liz. I would love to hear more about how either PovNet or LawNet have approached multilingual content development, and whether is that content typically translated by staff members, or what are the models for developing that kind of content?
Hi, I'll start. It's Penny. We don't have very much multilingual content on our website. The main reason being that we don't feel that it's right to put something up when we can't actually follow up with that with an advocate who can help somebody. Because quite often what people are looking for on our website is help. We're a quite small organization. We only have one staff person. So we work with intercultural groups around British Columbia just to find ways to make PovNet more useful to settlement workers who work with immigrant and refugee communities. But to this point, our site is in English only. Kirsten, do you?
Yeah, well, this is something that comes up a lot around our office. We have more than just LawNet that we create here at the Legal Resource Center. We have a lot of print publications and other websites as well. So we talk about this a lot. We hear from some users that whether or not we'll have it in other languages. The demand isn't all that high here in Alberta, and frankly, the funding is not there either for translating into multiple languages. We also have realized that translating legal materials into plain language is quite difficult, and you can't just and so time-consuming and so very costly. And what we've talked about, certainly with our other resources, is that oftentimes it's important to have the materials created in plain language, plain English, and sometimes even simple English, because oftentimes the intermediary who's working with the user who speaks a different language, they actually aren't speaking the same language. So the plain English or simple English is actually the common language. So we've chosen that route many times, but it's definitely something that we talk about, and we would really like to get more funding in that area. So that's definitely an area of kind of contention for us.
It's Penny again. I just want to say one more thing, which is that we do have several websites in British Columbia who do have materials in a number of languages, including, of course, ClickLaw, with links, and also other sites as well. So quite often when it comes to materials like that, we link to those websites.
Thanks, Penny. We now have a question from Sandra Ramazai from Legal Aid in BC. And it's, have you done any formal usability testing, and how do you approach it? Do you do it in-house or contract it out? And who should we hear from? How about Kirsten?
Sure. I was going to jump in first anyway, just because we've been just doing a lot of usability testing with our new portal. And we did some formal usability testing right at the beginning of last year before we started the upgrade project. And we did that, we did formal testing with a library school volunteer, actually, who went out and I think did 5 participants. And we have a form that they have to sign, and we have specific questions that we ask all of the participants, and it's very much sitting side by side, watching them work through the scenarios, and us recording everything that people click on, everything that they say, so it's very much a speak aloud experience. And then we're just actually in the process of completing usability testing on LawNet right now, where again we've tested about 7 or 8 people on the latest LawNet portal. So it is very much a formal testing that we do, but we also do informal testing throughout all of our projects, where a user, we might just happen to have a conversation with a user and get a sense from them what their usability issues are. That's a little bit less formal, but for this project particularly, we did one before and one afterwards.
Thanks, Kirsten. We now have another question for Kirsten again. And it's from Sarah D. And I see that you have a blog. Do you have any formal policies about what the bloggers put up in the blog? Does maintaining the blog take a lot of time? And that's a blog that won an award, right, Kirsten?
That's right. The Best New Law blog for 2009, CLAWBY. The blog is a Legal Resource Center team blog, so we have multiple authors, but they're all in-house. We have looked at the idea of, we have been approached by guest bloggers, and that's something that then has made us actually sit down and try and come up with some informal policies around who we might let be a guest blogger and what kinds of information we would include. Just some of the experience that we've had so far with guest bloggers, sometimes it actually takes a little bit more time to have a guest blogger, because we have to go through the material and make sure that it's understood and in plain language. And because everything that we put on the blog is to educate, public legal education. So it's not just to promote somebody's site, so it has to actually have that educational component to it. It does take time, and that's what made me worried about doing it in the first place. But because it's a team approach, and we have our staff lawyer, especially Carol Appersbach, has really embraced this blogging role wholeheartedly, and I think has written some really informative and blog posts that really can educate the user in plain language and in an entertaining way as well.
Great. Thanks very much, Kirsten. And we'll be talking more about blogs and social media at the conference, lots of opportunities to share our experience there. So we've ended right on time. We'll just do a short wrap-up. Just to remind you that the third webinar is on February 8th, and it will have EduqueLoi and InMyLanguage.org, and also the National Conference in Vancouver, February 23rd and 24th, Enhancing Access to Justice Through Effective Use of Technology. And we really want to thank our presenters, Penny, Liz, and Kirsten, and also the Law Foundation of Ontario, and to all of you for participating. And just a reminder that this will be available for other people to listen to and watch, and we'll send you an email about that. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.